These people are playing a tough footy game. Isn't sport meant to make you tougher and more resilient?
That's what I couldn't understand. They're playing one of the toughest games in the world, Australian football, and here they are. They get triggered by, you mentioned the word Queen and you mentioned the word colonisation, and they fall down in a heap and they're laying in a fetal position. I just find that really strange because the people today they hadn't experienced any of those laws. They have a very good education system. When I was a young bloke, I remember Charles Perkins, I was 6 at the time, Charles Perkins and John Moriarty come to our town, and there were 2 Aboriginal people. They were probably who went to university. In fact, they're well known as being the first small group of people who went to university. And we were all young kids, and we're sitting there going, oh, gee, this university must be really special, this place, because our parents were whispering about university. Didn't have a bloody clue what university was, but it must have been a great place because sort of sacred place because of the way my parents spoke about it. And I'll never forget when they turned up because, typically in the 60s, they had that nice suit on, a white shirt and a black tie, and their shoes. I never forgot their shoes. I looked at their shoes and thought, oh my God, they're just the most cleanest, blackest shoes I've ever seen. And I thought, geez, I thought, oh, well, I'm going to get university. I just have to get these clean black shoes. So I used to polish my shoes every day. to be there, well, to break out of that area.
You were imbued with a sense of wonder about the world, and that's what life's about, Warren. But if the AFLW doesn't want to hold a minute's silence for Queen Elizabeth, perhaps it could hold a minute's silence for Elena Kukla and her 2-month-old son Orlando. You might remember, Warren. These were the people murdered by Kukla's partner in Alice Springs in July. They were mentioned by Jacinta Nampijinpa Price in her maiden speech in July. Price was trying to highlight the desperately tragic conditions that women and children endure in remote communities. But instead we get all this grandstanding about the Queen. Warren, why are urban Indigenous agitators so blind about what the real problem is?
I just find it really hard. You look at people who are living in Sydney, living in Melbourne and Perth, and these large southern cities, and they seem to there's a fog between that cities and the north of Australia, where these in remote and regional communities, you've got these incredible crime statistics. They look at the statistics and they think that it's all a bunch of white fellas going up there and beating us up. In actual fact, it is dysfunction within those communities. Like the Prime Minister saying, oh, we should, people should be able to spend their money their own way. They live in a fantasy world. It's like when the Premier of Queensland, the former Premier of Queensland, said, I like to have a beer on my veranda when I go home from work, and then I like to have decide on what type of red wine I like to have before dinner. And I sit there going, what are you complete idiots? That's not the world that these people live in. It's not the world that even the people in the western suburbs of Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne don't live in. And this is like I can imagine all these people coming home from the bush after wrestling with cattle all day, and they just say, oh, I think I might have a beer on the veranda, and then I'll check out the wine cabinet and see what's on the wine. No, these communities are massively unemployed. They're living in government housing, and half of them was falling down. They have huge fences around them, about 2 metres high barbed wire fences, and that's not for the aesthetics, that's to keep people out. I've been in some of these communities where they actually lock us in the accommodation for the night because of the threat of violence that happens in these communities. And it's all fueled by alcohol and drugs. And I just don't get it, how stupid and how blinded some of these political leaders are.